Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story.
And I come back to you now, at the turn of the tide.
This is currently episode 8 of the Grand Arena Championships 4, which means we're in 3v3, we're in the semifinals, and I've got a really fun match for you guys today. I'm facing off against a dude named Johnny Cron, and he also happens to be a patron for my buddy Indigo, who also does Grand Arena stream videos, so I'll link his YouTube channel at the bottom of my, or rather at the top of my video description. And this is really going to be a fun match because not only am I going to be facing Johnny Cron and his really amazing roster, I also get to face the advice of Indigo, who watches most of, or all of my videos, so it's going to be a fun time. Let's just dive right into the stats here. You can see that Johnny has a better set of relics than I do, with more tier 7 and tier 5, and pretty comparable 3 and 4, and I definitely beat him on relic ones, so I've got that. We have about the same amount of geared characters, at least in terms of gear 13, though I do have the advantage in gear 12, and I have a lot more Zetas. I have 20 more Zetas than him. Otherwise, our mods actually look very similar, and just in terms of our total success in Grand Arena Championships, I've had a little bit more success, but not by that much. And like I keep saying, 3v3 is a totally different animal. Like he's enjoyed a lot of success so far, and I was up against someone who was going to be really skilled. So moving into this match, I did do quite a research on my opponent's past tendencies on his attacks and everything, and I tried to change my different defenses just to kind of adjust to that a little bit, and for the most part that didn't actually work that well, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later, I think, and if I forget, you guys can of course just roast me in the comments. Anyways, I was expecting that my opponent would not place Darth Revan on defense, and I was correct in that, at least in terms of the first 2 zones. I wasn't sure what was in the back zone, of course, but I was pretty sure that my opponent would keep their Darth Revan for offense, and so I did put my own Darth Revan on defense just because my Darth Revan is faster than his, and so I kept Malak on offense, and I assumed that hopefully my opponent would have to use all 3 of their Darth Revan characters, you know, Darth Revan, Badstila, and Malak, and I'd be able to kind of trade up, and so that's on defense, but otherwise we've got a lot of good offensive tools here, and let's just start attacking the bottom zone, try to clear it so we have more information on what teams we need to counter for the rest of the match. My opponent did put down a lot of really strong teams in the first zone, and I needed to be able to clear them first before I could get into the back zone, of course. We need to make sure, though, that we're going to be picking the right teams, and so the first team that I wanted to try out was against the clone team, and you can see here I'm taking Asajj lead with Malak, and Asajj is only gear 8. He actually even have his lead Omega'd at this point. It's since been Omega'd since I've been using him a lot. But really, Asajj isn't intended to do anything other than provide a leadership bonus to Malak, which is, a huge amount of defense, and then Asajj is just supposed to die. I mean, it'd be great if somehow he lived through this madness, but the fact is he's just really not going to be able to. And so, the thing is, I wanted to have a little bit of insurance to make sure that I'd be able to survive against these clones. These clones have some relics on them, and my Malak isn't the strongest, frankly. He's only relic 4, and Malak is a really, really strong character. So, I don't mean to imply that he's not good enough to do this. I wouldn't be taking him against these clones if I didn't think he could do it, but he is vulnerable. Like you can see, Rex just did a big attack, and it took off a respectable-ish amount of damage from Malak. That would have killed almost any other character, but Malak is impervious for the most part to these health percentage-based attacks, and it will just continue to add up. Like eventually Rex is going to be able to do enough damage to just finish Malak off, and I want to put that off as much as possible. And so here I'm targeting 5s first, because the 5s, if I took out Rex first, 5s would then just sacrifice himself and supercharge Rex, and Rex is the one that I'm semi-afraid of. And so, we're targeting him. One kind of downfall to this clone team, honestly, is the fact that there's no protection regeneration, and so once I get the protection down, it's only a matter of time until Malak can use his second special attack and just take out whoever he's attacking. And that's the case here. Like, Barriss is great at keeping people alive against other characters, not necessarily against Malak. So 52 banners here, that's exactly what I expected after using Asajj, but I did get an undersized win, which I forgot to claim. And so if I got any other undersized bonuses, they would just kind of be ignored later, but that's on me. So the next team we're going to be targeting here is this General Grievous team with Wat and Magna Guard, and it is a pretty interesting team. My opponent had General Grievous, who was Relic 7, and immediately, Wat's going to go. He puts the taunting tech onto Magna Guard, and that's problematic, of course. But then I can mark Wat. I did check speeds, and clearly my Darth Revan was or Jedi Revan, also Darth Revan, but Jedi Revan was faster than Wat, and so I was able to mark him and just take him out before he was able to put another tech on Grievous. And that was important because if he could put another tech onto Grievous, then Grievous would be extremely, extremely resilient. He'd have the +5 health and protection regen every time someone took a move, and that would be an extremely frustrating thing to have. Set of circumstances for General Grievous in this match, so I'm glad that I was able to take Wat out before he could apply that tech to Grievous. But as you can see, I was able to take out both of the supporting cast Separatists relatively quickly, and now we're just marking Grievous. And I think it's just an order of operations thing. This team probably would have been a lot scarier if you'd had Wat with like B2, because B2 would have gotten the taunting tech, but then if I was taking out Wat and marked him, then B2 would get a turn and he'd start doing debuffs on me and everything. So anyways, 51 banners, maybe not the highest banner count, but this team was far more intimidating than I actually it ended up being in terms of difficulty. Maybe if the Wat was, at Relic 5 or something, and he was harder to chew through, this would have been more of a challenge. But as it was, I was able to take out before Grievous even got his first turn, and so I just took out Wat, and then Grievous essentially just took his first turn and did his AoE instead of like doing an AoE, then me killing a guy, then doing another AoE. So that was a fortunate turn of events for me. And now we're taking out the last squad in the bottom zone, and it's Geonosians. They are actually relatively high relic, and you can see that Traya is not that happy right now. However, one funny thing is Traya is not super slow, but she hasn't even gotten a turn yet, and they're almost all dead. And you can see I'm not taking Nihilus here. I haven't been taking Nihilus. And that's just fine. You don't really need Nihilus for this to work. All you really need to do, once Traya gets a turn, you put Isolate on the Brood, the Brute rather, and now you just try to take out these other characters on the side, which Spy and Soldier both went down pretty quick. And now if we can kill Alpha, doesn't really matter if we kill Brute. In fact, we don't want to kill Brute because Alpha will just summon another one, and there will be issues. And so this actually took a little bit. I think that the Brute Alpha is something like gear or relic like 5 or something, and so tons of hit points, and no one's calling the Brood Alpha to assist anymore, and so he's actually starting to regenerate some of his health and protection, and that's not necessarily what we want, obviously. So I had a minute of kind of worry that maybe I just wouldn't be able to finish this guy off with this team, but eventually I was able to put all my fears to rest and finish off the Brood Alpha. And another 51 banners, that's not necessarily an amazing score, but for the amount of relics and gear that was on that Geonosian squad, I was happy enough. The back zone had a few more pretty strong teams, but nothing that I was super scared of. No Darth Revan, so that's always good news as well. And then it was almost time for family time. It was on New Year's Day, so I had the day off, and first my 5-year-old wanted to watch me attack something with Nest, and I was actually in a position where I could actually do that, and so I decided to throw Qi'ra Nest in here, and this is where I would have been happy to have an undersize. I haven't taken credit for my undersize feat, just because this is also another undersize attack, and this squad is like perfect bait for Nest to be able to attack. There's a lot of defense, but there's almost no offense, and so, Qi'ra actually has a pretty good likelihood of surviving as well. And what you want to do here is take out Vander Chewbacca first, And then if you can, you want to take out L3 as quick as you can. You see I attacked the other Chewbacca there just because he was staggered and was about to take a turn. And so you take out L3 because she has such a high level of crit avoidance at the higher upgrade levels, and I wanted to avoid that. So 55 banners there, and it was time for family time. Now, one of the really fun aspects to this match was the fact that me and my opponent were both able to attack throughout the evening. And so, every time I checked, it seemed like Johnny had knocked off another one of my squads. And so you see my front zone was taken out, eradicated, one shot on everything. And he did eventually also take out my General Grievous squad, and then followed that up with taking out my Nute with Droideka and B1. And so it was a pretty strong start for him. And then he also took out my clones, all one shots. So really strong start, and I needed to answer if I could, and I really had some pretty limited time. And so I wanted to be able to take out this Old Republic team with Carth, Mission, and Zaalbar. It's a fairly standard squad, and I have a really fun counter to that. I use Thrawn plus Death Trooper and Krennic, and what you're doing here is you're essentially having Thrawn hold Vander Chewbacca's arms behind his back with Fracture, while the other two kill his buddies. And so I'm targeting, I'm throwing the grenade from Death Trooper to increase cooldown so they can only do basics, basically. And, I usually try to take out Carth first, honestly, if I can, just because he is easier to kill. Like you see, the mission is in stealth there, and it's not necessarily that easy to take her out while she's in stealth, obviously. So take out Carth, and then once Carth is gone, then, there's no revives or anything on this team, and you have the death mark from Death Trooper to be able to operate with. So we have Fracture. I threw my grenade just to increase missions cooldowns. I used the special from Krennic to stun her, which is something that a lot of people, including myself, forget about sometimes. And then we put Death Mark onto Zaalbar, and that takes him out pretty quick. And you see, I'm taking out Mission here really fast, and I want to be able to heal a little bit of protection. So when Thrawn went, he used his leadership special ability to kind of defer his turn for a little bit. And that meant that he was able to go again pretty soon after and heal his protection. So I got the perfect 54 here, and we can move on to some more of Johnny Cron's attacks. So when I came back to my phone, my entire top two zones were completely full cleared, though both of them were doing okay for a little until my fleet succumbed. So far, Johnny has full cleared all of my guys with one shots. So not necessarily the best showing for my defense, but we got to keep trucking. One challenge of 3v3 is the fact that we have so many different teams available to us on offense and defense, and it's hard to keep track of everything. And the worst nightmare is to kill all of an opponent's roster except for like one team, and you're like, oh man, I don't even have a single thing that can take this out, and then you end up losing because you don't have the right teams available. So I did just map it out real quick. The teams that I had needed to take out, there was a Shaak T clone team with kind of lowish gear. There were a couple relics there. There was a Night Sisters team, a more different Night Sisters team, Bossk Bounty Hunters, Dooku team with other Separatists, and then Nute with Separatist droids. And, then I mapped out the teams that I had available for offense, and, I had Padme, Commander Luke, Kylo Ren with Watt, so First Order, and really high gear, my Relic Bounty Hunters, my Jedi Training Rey team, and my Emperor Palpatine team with Nihilus. And so it seemed like I probably had the right amount of firepower to be able to finish these off in one shot, which, is always the goal. We want to be as efficient as possible. And so, let's just jump on in and see which squads I used for which, because I don't necessarily need to map everything out for you guys and ruin the surprise. First, I wanted to use the team that was, in my opinion, the weakest, and so I chose the weakest squad for them, at least to be able to counter. And, my weakest team, as I see it in this scenario, is Emperor Palpatine with Vader and Darth Nihilus. And, we're just trying to take out a Bossk team. And, Bossk, I think, has, like, Relic 5 or something crazy like that. He actually went first, even though Vader is pretty quick. Johnny's modding was extremely good. I mean, it was equal to mine at the very least. So, all we're trying to do here is wait for Nihilus to annihilate everyone. Like, if we can eventually get Shaak on Bossk, which I did, Johnny did not put a lot of tenacity on Bossk. I got Shaak off on Bossk. That means that even though he had the right Zetas on Bossk, he lost his taunt, and now we can target Boba. And, Boba is really the biggest threat here. We really don't want to have to deal with him at all because, one good execute, one really high spiked crit, and everything would just kind of just go to hell, frankly, if he crit the wrong person. And so, taking him out, then the rest of the team, Bossk is obviously going to be almost impossible to shift with normal attacks, so we're going to have to wait for Annihilate in that regard. And otherwise, we're just stuck hitting here, so I'm actually going to fast forward a little bit, starting now. And there's honestly not much to this. I think that if I had to attack today, or on my very first day playing this game, I probably would have done almost the exact same attacks here. Like, it's relatively simple. Maybe I would have changed a couple things up. You see I keep trying to ability block Dengar so he can't roll his grenades at me, and keep failing at that because he apparently has high tenacity. I didn't check it at any point, which I don't know. I feel like that should be a mistake, but I also feel like it's actually, in reality, not a mistake. And right now, what I probably just should have done was just hit the auto button. And I actually thought of doing that, except you can see that it's set on auto basic because I was doing the Sith raid cheese for phase 3, and I just didn't want to have to take that off. It's kind of funny when you're lazy about auto, but 51 banners there. Not my best showing, obviously, but at the same time, I took out a squad on my first try, and I just needed to keep one-shotting characters as much as I could. One-shotting, not just characters, but one-shotting entire squads. Not that the squads in 3v3 are considered entire at this point, but the next most questionable matchup, in my opinion, here was my Jedi Training Ray team against this Dooku, Jango, Sunfac team. And you see that I first did the mind trick on Dooku, just so that he could have days. I was hoping for ability block as well, but he is relict and a pretty big threat to my team, honestly. Like, his lead is able to apply tenacity down on me and really just mess with me a lot if I let him. So, I was happy I was able to get this done on Jango while he was still frozen, and at least damage was frozen against him. And now we're just trying to control here. So stuns on Jango. Sunfac is really slow. And, if we can just take Jango out, this was actually a really perfect spot to leave Jango in until he took another turn, because if we can kill him right after his turn meter expires and his stun goes away, then he's going to start with lower amounts of turn meter. So, we waited until he quote-unquote took a turn. He didn't actually do anything. His turn was just standing there. And then after we took him out, then we could hit him again with no fear of him actually taking a turn and doing a huge rocket attack that we couldn't heal from. And now we're just hoping the BB-8 gets Illuminated Destiny before Sunfac dies, and right on cue, that's what he did. I put smoke up just so when I did attack him, because he has natural counter, we wanted to make sure that if he did get a counter, he wasn't going to knock any banners off. So 54 there, I feel like I executed that one pretty well. I spent a little bit of time looking at comparative speeds and just making sure, because that Dooku was really fast, that important aspect, but BB-8 is faster in almost every circumstance, so not too hard, really. My next team that I wanted to use was my Kylo Ren team with Fox, and I did still have Watt. Watt is a really great addition to this 3-man squad, and honestly, he's a great addition to the 5v5 version as well. And this match is a little bit sketchy for them, just because even though I do have 2 dispels, both of these Night Sisters are really fast and they have a ton of health, and both of them, as I continue to kill zombie, are going to be adding to their max health stat. And Daka is Zetaed, so she's gaining 10% health every single time I kill zombie. Asajj is gaining, what, like 5%, something like that. In addition, there's the Daka lead here, which gives them all an additional 50% health, just right on the top of that. And so, you know, if I can take one of these characters out with Fox, then I'll be good to go. Once I accomplish that, then there's not going to be an issue because, you know, Daka can't revive anyone after Fox takes him out. But the question is, can I actually chew through this ever-expanding health pool that Asajj and Daka are both accumulating? And you know that there's not really a risk of them killing characters, though. I do need to be careful. If I kill zombie enough times, like Asajj is going to start really ramping up a lot of damage too. So I do need to be cautious of that. But the reason I took this team in the first place was, you know, if I can, I have 2 different dispels, and that's a huge boon against the stupid zombie team. And beyond that, Fox also continually gains in max health and damage as well, and so over time he's able to hopefully be able to snipe Asajj and Daka. It got a little bit dicey a couple times here, though. As you can see, every time I was just about to take out one of these characters, something happened, like they taunted or they healed each other, and starting to get really frustrated, and it was like 2 minutes and I still hadn't killed anyone. And then eventually there was an opening and Fox was able to take out Asajj, and after that I knew that it was probably just a matter of time until I killed Daka. However, Daka does still have a really huge health pool. If zombie gets a turn, he can still, or she can still, do a heal on Daka. So we're just trying to take her out, and eventually, actually, the damage over times did her in. I didn't actually take her out, but zombie doesn't revive for that. So 54 banners. Wonderful result for a somewhat sketchy situation, and you know we're down to not too many teams left. You know, after that, Johnny was able to take out my General Skywalker team, so that was unfortunate. One shot once again, and now we're into our next match here. 3 teams left. And we have our Bossk Bounty Hunter team and Padme and Commander Luke, and I felt pretty confident with all 3 of these. But once again, I'm just using the team that I feel the least confident about, my Bossk Bounty Hunters, against this really heavily reliced Night Sisters team. And one thing I do want to point out is Spirit has Relic 4 on her, and she hits like a truck, and she's really fast. And, you know, I really didn't want to have to mess with that with any of my teams, but I felt like the Bossk Bounty Hunters would probably be able to handle it okay. I was able to take out Acolyte with one well-placed shot from Jango, so that would prevent revive because Jango disallows revives, but really the only revive mechanic on this team is from Mother Talzin's unique. So I have her ability blocked. I did just want to take her out as soon as possible, and now, you know, if the circumstances dictate, if I were to lose this, I could probably find a team to take out Relic for Spirit, though Spirit is just nasty at this Relic level. Like my Spirit is Relic 5, and she kills a lot of different things. She's really awesome. So 52 banners from my bounty hunters, not necessarily their best showing, but still a win. So you can see that Johnny attacked again, one shot another one of my teams. This time was my Bastila, and then you know, I was not paying attention as much as I should probably, and he was able to take out the other 2 teams with one shot. So he did one shot my entire roster, and it was down to me to be able to take out the rest of his roster with one shots. Otherwise I would lose. Alright, so this Nute team with the battle droids is actually a really nasty squad. Nute is a fantastic separatist lead, and you know, one thing that I recognized right off the bat was that it was probably going to be a little bit better than I gave it credit for, and so I threw Padme in there. You know, this is my pretty standard Padme team, and we need to take out B2 first. We also need to take out, you know, we obviously need to be watching B1 as he's gaining banners, or stacks. He's going to be increasingly doing more damage and healing more. And, the other annoyance is Nute gets a ton of turn meter with these two guys, and that can be really frustrating because he's continually just calling assists. He's putting extortion on my guys, and this B2 is really tough to take out. Also, B2 is causing me buff immunity, and that can also be frustrating because I can't gain as many stacks that way of protection or protection up, which then turn into courage, which then turn into killing super battle droid really fast. It can happen. It just takes a while, and so we're responding to the different stacks of extortion. Every time we get extorted, we need to pay that off right away because that really adds up. They eventually they keep gaining tons of speed. I lose speed, and the speed differential can really just destroy you if you're not cautious there. So pay off that extortion, but that also increases their damage output. And so, extortion is such a fantastic mechanic for Nute. He's such a frustrating character to play against, but I mean that in the best way, honestly. Like, he's really interesting. I really like him as a character, even as he's really annoying in the movies. And I really don't like his lisp thing, whatever, the way he talks. I know that's kind of judgy, but it's true. So finally was able to take out B1, and Nute is pretty easy to take out after you take out his support. But 51 banners, that's pretty much what I expected with a Padme team. You can always hope for more. One thing to note is I didn't actually do any math to see what scores I would need to be able to beat Johnny. For all I knew, I needed to get max banners every time, and that was what I was going to shoot for anyways. So, we're jumping into this match here with Shaak and Arc and Clone Sergeant, and one of them is only gear 12. So, my Han and Luke are both relic 7, Han and Chewie, and then Commander Luke is relic 2 or 3, something like that. So we're taking out Shaak first, and after that we can take out ARC Trooper or Clone Sergeant, whoever we feel like. I think I took out Sergeant there because he had more turn meter than ARC. And for relic 7 on those guys, it's not too hard. So 54 banners, happy to get the win here. And there's only one thing left, and that's fleet. And, there was Geonosians in the back there, which isn't that threatening to Negotiator, though if you get the wrong roll, things can go south really fast. So, we're going to use Negotiator, of course. That's who we have on offense. And I did decide to undersize it, just to be a little more risky. Johnny does have his Geonosians all really well geared, and so that was a little bit nerve-wracking. It was going to be really tough to take these ships out. So what I'm doing here, I targeted Soldier, and we're going to try to work on him and take him out as quick as we can, just because he's probably the linchpin to the squad. And the hope here is also that I'm going to be able to daze at least a couple of these guys because they have so much power in their mass assist that you want to be able to prevent that as quick as possible. So an opening come open. An opening occurred to take out that Geonosian soldier, and I took it. I have the buff immunity on Sunfax, so he can't passively buff, or can't passively taunt, or buff. He can't do anything. So, I was making some progress, and then Slave 1 entered the scene, and Ahsoka said, "I'm annoyed with you," and just took him out, so that was kind of fun to see. And now we're just looking toward trying to make the fight last just long enough that we're going to get max banners, or close to it, while still actually, achieving the max banners thing. So, got Plo in there, and 64 banners, pretty fantastic result.
Until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside.
And with that, I got the full clear with 1 shots against my opponent. So we both got the full clear. I guess we'll see who wins here. And I was able to get the win. If I had lost any of my battles, though, I would have lost by at least 2 points. So, that was a pretty close match. We both one-shot each other. I'll show you guys my different defenses, even though they didn't do anything against him. They were... The best that can be said about them is that they slowed him down a little bit. You know, and one thing that I was really hoping he would fall for, I had seen that in the past on his different battle logs, that he had taken the full Sith triumvirate to take on the Geonosians, and I was really hoping he'd do that and not save Nihilus for later time. Unfortunately, he actually did exactly what I was hoping he wouldn't. He saved Nihilus for something else, so putting Geonosians in the front was my attempt to, you know, make myself have a little bit better situation, and clearly didn't work. So kudos to him for sniffing out that trap, and you know, not that it was much of a trap at all, to be honest. Afterward, in Indigo's Discord server, this conversation went down, and you know, Indigo basically said that Johnny wanted to take me out using efficiency, and that he didn't listen to any of his pointers, at least as far as deployment goes. And so you guys can read this. There's actually an adult word here at some point, so I'm gonna skip forward. Not that kids don't say that word all the time anyways. I hear it, it seems like, more often from kids these days. So anyways, really happy that I got the win. I made it to the finals, and a great opponent in Johnny Cron. He actually took video of all of my different squads being destroyed and mutilated at his hand, and so I'm actually going to link a few of those in my video description as well, if you guys care to check that out. And I decided to mention it at the end to reward my faithful listeners, not just the ones who skip forward and around and everything. So kudos to you, congratulations, well done. And anyways, we've got the group finals coming up, and then we've got our final round and the final push to Kyber. So still a lot of exciting stuff ahead of us, and I'm going to leave you guys here. So thank you guys so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.